killing each other. That's not the way out.
Lord knows I tried, been a witness to homicides and drive-bys taking lives.
He died extremely violently. We've never found the killer.
There was a huge crowd there, a lot of potential witnesses.
Las Vegas police are taking another look at the case.
One of the great artistic talents of his generation was cut short.
I got so much to share.
Ain't nothing but a gangster party.
You rap a lot of your songs from a gangster's point of view.
From a thug's point of view.
From a thug's point, what's the difference?
Well, to me, gangsters die quick.
It was a gang-related brawl that led to Tupac's murder on September 7th, 1996. After watching the Mike Tyson match in Vegas with Death Row Records mogul Suge Knight, Tupac jumped Los Angeles Crips gang member Orlando Anderson.
One of the stories that is out there is that Orlando Anderson had committed a robbery on either Tupac or one of Tupac's friends and stole their necklace.
It was on videotape. I mean, they were going at it, and Tupac got the best of him. Within a couple hours of that incident, there was that confrontation out on Flamingo.
Suge and Tupac were on their way to a club. This is the last known photo of Tupac alive. Minutes later,
A white Cadillac pulled up next to Suge Knight's BMW. Tupac was in the passenger seat. Suge was driving. A shooter in the driver's side, back seat of the Cadillac, unrolled the window, arm came out, opened fire, and just went rat-a-tat-tat. There were 13 shots fired. Tupac tells him, "You're shot, man," because Suge was shot in the back of his neck. And he said, "I'm shot, look at you." And they end up on the Las Vegas Strip. And the last thing he said to Suge Knight was, "I'm dying, man."
I was working on the Las Vegas Strip. I was a sergeant. I came sliding in on my bike. Suge Knight runs out, and he's running around yelling. He's yelling at me. He's got blood just flying out of the side of his head. And I couldn't get the car door open, and he's yelling at me, and I had to point my gun at him and say, you know, get back. Tupac, he basically slumped out of the car when I opened the door. We have something in police work called a dying declaration. So I asked him, what happened? Who shot you? Who did this? And he was just kind of ignoring me, and he was trying to yell back and forth to Suge. He got a breath together, and I said, who did this? He looked at me and he went, you. And that was it. He never regained consciousness again. He eventually went to the hospital where he was kept on life support for several days until he was finally removed from life support. I've received death threats. A lot of people, for whatever reason, don't like the fact that I was the last guy to talk to him.
A lot of people thought he would live through it. A lot of that was down to the fact that he'd survived another major shooting 2 years earlier.
I saw Tupac's body at the coroner's office during the autopsy, and he had a whole bunch of bullets in the middle of his chest. There was no way. He could have been shot in front of an emergency room, and he wouldn't have survived.
The night Tupac was shot, the next day, Orlando Anderson gets back into Compton and goes all over the street telling everybody, "I shot Pac, I shot Pac." He was bragging about it. The gang cops identified Orlando Anderson to the Las Vegas Police Department. I got it straight from the street gang cops.
Orlando Anderson is the shooter.
Were you involved in any way in the death of Tupac Shakur?
Well, I was not involved.
there was not enough evidence to prosecute Anderson.
Because the police got absolutely no cooperation whatsoever. And I talked to those guys, all from Tupac's group, and they were all there at the shooting, and that night, nobody saw anything.
There's no doubt in my mind whatsoever that Suge Knight knew immediately who was behind the murder of Tupac Shakur.
Suge, who's currently in prison on unrelated murder charges, was allegedly a high-ranking member of the Bloods, Orlando's rival gang.
When somebody do something in the ghetto, if you tell on them, that's called a snitch, a rat. In the suburbs, if somebody do something and they tell them, they call an eyewitness. It's a big difference.
18 months after Tupac died, Orlando Anderson was himself killed at a car wash. When someone big like that dies, it's tough to accept.
My adversaries is getting buried. They paranoid of getting buried. One of us gonna see the cemetery.
There were lots of conspiracy theories rolling around.